Sonic Talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 595. I have to say, before I start, the mix on that is completely different to me now. I was just saying before the show, I've just had my ears syringed, or not syringed, but cleaned, because I was just going deaf in one ear, and it sounded like maybe I needed that. And everything sounds very different, much more high fidelity and wide range, which is a kind of appropriate way to start a podcast about audio and music technology, because that means you can feel confident that I probably can hear more of it than I could last week, which is good in some ways, but there's no way I'm going back and doing all those synth reviews again. You'll just have to kind of take my word for it. But as Rich was saying before the show, maybe some of those filters I thought were a bit dark were actually not at all. Anyway, Sonic Talk is the podcast to do with music technology, as I've said, synthesizers, drum machines, software, controllers, apps, all that whole kind of business. And we want to say thank you very much to our friends at Softube, who will be telling you a little bit about their plugin. And also we want to say thank you very much to iZotope. There's a competition about halfway through. You'll be able to win a copy of Ozone 9 Advanced, which has just come out, which is actually quite a powerful suite of mixing and intelligent audio finagling plugins. More on that later. Let's say hello to our guests, and we'll start off with Mr. Matthew Hodson at Maths, who is in a new venue. You've moved, haven't you? This is one of your excuse for saying I can't make it. I'm moving. Now you're in. Yeah,
I'm in. Me and the skull are in. This bad boy. Yeah, we're in. This is the Church of Hodson, if you like. It is. This used to be an old church. I mean, I'll just show you guys the ceiling up there. This is pretty high roofs and stuff. So I'm studio's still in boxes. I'm just on a few big pieces of work done. Because it's pretty reverberant in here. You can't hear it on this mic, but we heard it on the compressed MacBook mic. It sounded like it'd be great for drums. Yes, absolutely. I think I might be able to get away with that. I don't know, but it's certainly a nice big creative space to set everything up. It feels very creative. There's some nice light in here. It's nice and vibey, and can't wait to get everything set up, really. You know, it's always that limbo land when you've moved and things are in boxes, and you start moving away from doing music, and you start going, oh, forgot what I was doing. How does a synthesizer work again? Out
of the flow. I know what you mean. So are you doing, was it converted already, or was it like a church when you moved in?
No, it was converted in 2006. So there's like mezzanine areas up here and things like that. But I'm just having a little bit work to open up an area over which you can't see, and I won't show you because it's embarrassing, because I've just got stuff everywhere. Just to open that up a little bit more to allow me to set up more equipment, guitars, and basically it's going to allow me to have like a guitar amp set up over there, a vocal area, a drum area, modular synth area, experimental noodle area, and that kind of thing. So it's very much
it's a music-focused, life-changing move by the sound of it.
Yeah, I even bought an electric scooter yesterday. You know, one of those ones.
Oh, really?
That's still illegal. Yeah, I got one of those to bezz around on as well. So I don't know, what's this? This is maybe the midlife crisis that everyone talks about.
Is it red?
It's black, of course.
Ah, well, that's okay. I think you're safe. But that'll go lovely along the promenade along the coast. I mean, we hired those in Santa Monica a couple of years running. They're great for getting around, actually.
That's
really,
superb.
really.
Yeah. Just waiting for them to change the laws on it, because in the UK you're only legally allowed to drive them really on your driveways.
Yeah, which is a bit pointless, obviously.
It is a bit, yeah.
And considering they're trying to get everybody to stop using, fossil fuels, it seems like they might want to shift that rule a bit sharpish.
Hopefully.
Well, Matt, thank you for joining us. And we also have Mr. Richard Hilton, who's there at home for a more extended period. He's had a lot of time on the road and is back. That's with Chic, of course, playing keyboards, and he's back now, chilling like a resident. Because you are, in fact, a resident in your own home in the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. How are you, Rich?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. And I'm enjoying having some time at home. And but this week is very busy with work preparing for next week's performance we're doing in New York with Dolly Parton.
Wow.
Joining us.
Wow.
And
You're making your way through all the classic ladies in the music biz at the moment. That sounded bad. I didn't mean like that.
Actually, I quite like it that way. I have actually had the great privilege to work with some unbelievably legendary both men and women, and this will be another one of those amazing moments.
Excellent. I always wanted Dolly Parton to be my auntie. She's just sort of, she's probably the coolest. You just think, wouldn't she be cool to have around at Christmas and, see you occasionally? And she just seems like such a nice, I'm really glad that she is nice, because there haven't been any of those kind of clandestine videos of her being like really horrible and breaking the spell. She actually genuinely seems like a lovely person, which I think is always nice to have that reaffirmed.
I'm told that she is, and I'm looking forward to meeting her. And I've been working hard I've been using, I'm actually... Possibly, I expect to be using the Rolly Seaboard, playing strings on this for the first time. I'm quite excited about that.
You know what?
I've never played it on stage.
You're going to get more camera shots, Rich. Is it a pitch to end up to kickstart your TV career? The cameraman will zoom in and go, "Hey, what's that? That looks cool."
Oh, they're not going to be looking at me.
Yeah,
let's be serious. First of all, look where I am. Second of all, look who else is on the stage.
Rhinestone every time.
They're going to be looking at Dolly, trust me.
Of course they will, yeah.
And the people in the center of the stage. And that's as it should be. But in any case, I'm going to be having a blast over there with my Rolly Seaboard playing some of these string parts, because it just seems like the right thing for these parts. She's got actual fiddlers on stage on her live show, and while I can't claim to duplicate actual fiddlers on the thing, I can get a little closer texturally than I would get using the rolling keyboards I use for the rest of my world.
Interesting.
So I've decided to make it an adventure. I've got my charts right here.
Oh, wow. Jolene. Look at that.
Yeah, that one.
There's a word.
The Jolene chart.
Awesome.
Wow.
And so I'm preparing. And I'm working, and I'm having a blast at it.
Oh, there's another possible show title. Rolly Just Because You Can. Hold on.
Well,
do you see that? Do you see what I did there, Rich, with the lyric?
They're gonna need to pay me a lot more money if they're gonna use that. If you're gonna use that as the show. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Fair enough. Anyway,
the least they could do though is open a damn service center in the U.S. Oops,
yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah. I think you're right. So, listen. Both. I don't know if we covered this, but both of you guys actually were. Did you meet in New York? Because didn't you both go to AES?
I did not meet Matt.
We didn't meet up, no.
Should have hooked that up. We should have hooked it up.
No.
But so I Rich, I think we asked you about AES, and you were saying there was lots that who was and wasn't there. And I haven't spoken to Matt about this as well, because I know were you there for the whole duration, Matt?
I was there for most of it. Yeah, in and out. Lots of meetings though, in between.
Right. Okay.
Bits and bobs, yeah. But I had a good look around. Hanging around with the software guys quite a lot. Saw some of the mixing with the masters stuff going on. Few shootouts on different monitors and things like that. But it's really good. I mean, what an amazing show! It's getting better and better every year. It's the second time I've been to the one in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that part? Are you going to that as part of your sort of BIMS tutor head? So it's part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. So I go out, and it's good to meet up with obviously people in the industry, look at what's coming up, what's the new stuff, and forward plan ahead basically to incorporate that back into the curriculum and look at things that we might need to buy for next year and to build into the course basically, keep it up to date, man. Because as you know, production's moving so fast all the time. These stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a kind of Epcot Center scenario, really, do you? That's the way you want to be with a music technology educational facility. I remember going to the Epcot Center in it must have been 1990, and it was so quaint because it was all full of late 60s and early 70s technology that was brilliantly kitsch and just fantastic, but it hadn't been updated, and it was kind of like a decade or two behind the actual real world, which was kind of funny. But so you don't want to be in that scenario. So how'd you find New York? What was the weather like? Was it good?
Yeah, it was a bit nippy. But it was good though. I managed to get sunburnt, even though it was cold. But that's because I did a lot of walking around. It's just like walking around a film set. It's just brilliant. I always go to visit the Ghostbusters HQ.
I saw a photo. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. And it's my favorite bar across the road from it. My favorite bartender guy in there called Josh, who was very kind. He invited me to a secret gig of a quite well-known band who were doing a warm-up before their tour, which was really nice of him. Loved it. What a great place and great people out there as well. Expensive though, eh?
Yeah, well, it's a great a vibey city, that's for sure. Okay, well, let's get on to a bit of stuff. This may seem on the face of it kind of dull, but this is called Blackhole Virtual Audio Driver 0.2. And for those of you who perhaps don't, in fact, I'm using it at the moment. This Soundflower has been inter-app communication on OSX for ages, but it's been sort of orphaned. I mean, there are Audio Hijack, Rogue Amiga, Audio Hijack, which still uses SoundCloud as well, Soundflower, I should say. But this is the new, a sort of new bit of updated source, which actually does apparently work with 10.10 and up. And you know, it may seem very dull, but actually this is the sort of thing that really causes a lot of hassle trying to figure out audio routing between applications, particularly for Skype calls and screen recording and all that. And you end up with masses of latency because, I mean, imagine the Soundflower code is ages old, so you get this huge inter-app latency, and you can even with screen recorder and those kind of latest versions, a lot of those are using Soundflower, and you end up with this sort of massive disconnect between the audio and this. So this is actually quite a big deal. It's called it's called Blackhole. It actually works with Catalina, which I mean, considering that almost nothing in the world does, I'd say that deserves brownie points. But I mean, I don't know whether you guys, I'm guessing, Matt, you probably use inter-app audio stuff on the Mac a bit. I mean, do you use Soundflower? Yeah. What do you currently use?
Yeah, I used to use Soundflower. I used it for all sorts of stuff, everything from like live streaming and being able to record things simultaneously, to doing tutorial videos. I do private tuition as well, sometimes for people, and consultation. So I'd use it for that. Soundflower, when that was so brilliant and so intuitive and simple to use, sort of. When that kind of disappeared, I was really gutted. So I then went over and started using what I believe Soundflower became is Loopback. Are you familiar with that? By Rogue Amiga?
Right, okay. Loopback, yeah.
Loopback, yeah. So what's really cool about Loopback is it gives you a kind of an interface where you can literally kind of, it's like modular, just patching where your audio is, say, coming out of iTunes, and you want to route it through DAW and then out of there simultaneously into whatever you want. It's got pass through recording as well, so which means I believe it doesn't incur any delay in the audio.
Right. Wow. Also very important.
Using it for things like Skype as well. While you've got a DAW open, you want to run your DAW out into Skype when you're doing, like I say, with tutorials with someone who's not in the same country as you. So it's really, really cool. In fact, some of the ways that the students on my course do their final work is they do kind of like YouTube videos, if you like. So they're doing, they'll record the screen of their DAW and they'll open up their compressor and their EQ and their reverbs and show us the settings that they've been using to mix stuff. So to do that, they use a combination of QuickTime and Loopback and Soundflower and that kind of thing to work. But now Blackhole's come out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Loopback. Loopback is like $120, which I'm sure there's some sort of student discount. So, or maybe there isn't, but that's kind of a lot of money for students. It's funny that none of this stuff is kind of built into OSs or as much.
Yeah, right.
Because it's sort of, particularly in the creative world, I mean, it seems kind of crazy, really, that this stuff is so hard to do. And I've been in a situation where we're doing a call like what we're doing now. You know, say for instance, you wanted to bring your mic in. Beg your pardon. You wanted to bring your mic in and the audio from your desk, or Rich, you wanted to feed. It's not worth the hassle. It's a real pain. Rich, what do you? I mean, you must have a use for this once in a while as well. I mean, what's your solution?
Used to use Soundflower back in the day. I don't have that much need for this, but if I did, I've never used Blackhole, and I'm sure it's a fine product. And I read about it, and it all looks very interesting to me. I have used Rogue Amoeba products before, most notably Audio Hijack, and it's fantastic, and it does exactly what it purports to do. So I would be tempted to look at Loopback, especially after Matt recommends it. Reverend Hodson, that is. I would be inclined. I would be inclined to try any of them, but I do have good experience with the Rogue Amoeba products, and I'd be tempted to have a look at that.
Yeah, I've been using them for years. I mean, I remember when we first started the podcast. I mean, I had this insanely complicated setup where I'd have Skype open on the same computer, then I'd have a mic coming in, I have video, and it was really, really difficult. And I used the Rogue Amoeba stuff then, but back then the computer just didn't have enough grunt really to do all of this stuff in real time and with very low latency. It was always crapping out, and that's the thing that now computers can do this kind of thing, and so it's good to know that there's a free one. So if you're looking for it, Blackhole, I mean, this is what it looks like.
It's free.
I think this is free. Yeah. That's
I think it's 16 channels as well.
Well, it's 16. It'll do more. It'll do as much as you want. Because I'm currently using, let me see if I can find it, because I have to use it. I use the thing that I use to share the screen, which is something called NDI, which means the screen gets shared over the network into the switcher, which is brilliant low latency stuff. The only way I can get it to come into my world, is that not showing up? It doesn't show up. I can't show it on the screen. Is a thing called NDI scan converter, and that uses Soundflower. There's no other kind of method, and Soundflower used to work on the 2-channel version, but for some reason it stopped working, and I can only use it in 64-channel version, which is kind of crazy because I'm only ever using 2. So this is a good one. I should give a shout out to Peter Kern on Create Digital Music, cdm.link, for spotting this, because it's definitely a big use for that. And these are the sort of things that need to happen to kind of make our lives, content creators, particularly when you're mixing it all up, it gets it's just having to figure this stuff out for yourself is sometimes very complicated and very difficult.
I just think it's cool that someone made this and it's for free, and I think they just announced it on Reddit and was like, oh, hey everyone, Soundflower's gone, so I just made something that basically does what Soundflower did. Have it. And it's just like really cool. Somebody's done that.
Well, I hope somebody licenses it to using commercial products so that he can get some kind of payback, because we're all happy to take free stuff. It's but if he's got the licensing structure in place so that somebody can come along and say, oh, can we just grab that code? Because it works. Well, even if it's only because it's the only one that works in Catalina, maybe we could figure out how to get our stuff to work. I don't know. I won't go on about that because that's very tedious. So we have spent an inordinate amount of time talking about it. Right. So, excuse me. Scariest synth sounds. It's Halloween, right? It's Halloween. Is it tomorrow? What's the date today? 30th. Halloween's tomorrow. It was going to be a particularly portentous Halloween for us, but we're no longer leaving the European Union on the 31st, so we can rest easy, maybe not fill out those carnets just yet. That's perhaps another topic which we will get into at some point. Yeah, I wondered what I was thinking about. We occasionally do this scary sound. I mean, we've talked about, doing the soundtrack for horror films and this whole sort of notion of being able to use, this is really fun. This is kind of what synthesizers are made for, this kind of spookiness and scariness, and this sort of, because of the weight and I just wondered, and Matt, I sort of said, what's the scariest synth sound? And you suggested Clark, who's Chris Clark. Yeah. Did he do Body Riddle as well? Yeah. Was that him?
Yeah, so I think he did.
He's on Warp, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he's been doing. Not only is he a producer, but he's done some soundtrack stuff. He's done things with live performance, dancers, that kind of thing going on as well. I really like him. So his album Clark by Clark he's got some synth tones in it that are just, oh man, they're just so aggressive.
I'm trying to find that. Is it a recent album, Clark, or is it one of the early ones? Yeah, it's
pretty recent. It's a black and white front cover with like a silhouette of him on the front, and I just like some of the sounds that he gets, and he uses a clever combination of high passing synthesizers, so they get really light but aggressive, and then he sort of passes them through reverbs as well at the same time, and then he just smacks it back at you. His production's just
I seem to remember he used quite a lot of detune, and there were a lot of bell and in the stuff, because back in the day, actually one of the earliest Sonic Talks, when we first started Sonic Talk, Simon Power, who did a lot of production work for us back then, he did an interview with Chris Clark. It was around the time of Body Riddle, and the sounds were lovely, and they were it's very kind of mechanical, but there were all this sort of bell and tinkly sounds as well as all this other stuff. It was incredibly, really, really good. So I'll have to check that out. I'm going to jump in with the detuned, two notes detuned with the sort of the continuous beating frequency. That stuff that you hear in those sort of Wes Craven movies are really sort of scary, and it's usually quite subliminal, and it's really uncomfortable. That's sort of quite a good horror thing. I mean, obviously we got loads of other stuff. I don't know, Rich. I'm sure I must have asked you this before, whether you've actually scored any horror or had to do anything that's supposed to be scary or fearful, and what kind of sonic approach you would take.
Well, I did one, but it didn't appear in the movie that we did it for. So I don't know. Am I at liberty to tell stories about music that never appeared?
I would think so.
So we're doing the movie Beverly Hills Cop 3, which is with John Landis as the director. And it's not the best of the Beverly Hills Cop movies. Let's get that out of the way right up front. And it takes place, a great amount of it takes place in an amusement park. And I think I have told the story of having to create the carousel music that plays throughout this movie, because a lot of it takes place there. But in addition to that, at one point, there's a scene that takes place on what's called the dinosaur ride, which is supposed to be a fearful experience of riding through some form of Jurassic Park-like environment. And I had all kinds of campy horror movie score ideas that I employed in the way I approached with Nile this piece of music, and we both had a blast doing it, and unfortunately it didn't make the movie. But it was great. I mean, my approach is to look at what those guys did in those campy old Hollywood horror films and try to do a cool modern version of that is kind of where I'm coming from, because to me at that moment you're seriously in homage mode.
Right.
I'm not going to reinvent that wheel for this movie. No, I'm going to go and be as campy and as ridiculous as I can in the same way that, whoever it was, Bernard Herrmann, he wasn't ridiculous or campy, but I mean, guys who had to do that kind of thing, it was coming from that.
That's really interesting. I mean, I think there was a transition phase, wasn't there? Because there was the musical thing where you get lots of augmented and diminished and sort of like Tchaikovsky-esque kind of aggressive music, which was very much of the orchestral approach. And then presumably there was a transition as synthesizers became more available into less and just more atmosphere and more unpleasant sounds in themselves. Just something that was sinister rather than musically
I was
sinister,
much more
sonically
Hitchcockian. I was much more Hitchcockian about it in my approach than that. I wasn't taking it to the modern post-Tron movement kind of world of scoring. I was drawing on orchestral, because that's how the score mostly was. It was orchestral, so it was appropriate to the surroundings.
Have you guys ever been in that situation where you're working on music and you've got some sounds going, and then you think somebody calls your name, and you stop the music or you turn it down, you're like, huh? Oh, and it actually wasn't. It was just something you heard.
It was like
that's
harmonic.
Pretty spooky. Yeah, that's pretty.
A harmonic representation. It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think that because we look back at the kind of I guess John Carpenter, obviously famously scored most of his movies just for whatever reason, but he goes the melodic approach. It's the sinister melody, and the motif. Particularly, was it Halloween he did? Did he do Halloween? Was that, or I can't remember which ones he did, but they have sort of thematic approaches, and I guess it depends on the sound, that you can have the sound of something. And I don't know. I think there's so many different ways of doing it, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it? You can imply things, because it's almost like the the spacey child, the child's music box in over a really scary looking scene, because that in itself is a beautiful thing, but it's the juxtaposition that makes it kind of more sinister and more unpleasant. It's like, oh, there's something really, really wrong going on here. So you can play against the visuals. I've never done it, but I know Tara Bush actually, because there was an article came up on Facebook, which was they're going to restart the Hammer horror kind of franchise, and they put like a lot of money into it. So they're going to be producing a load of horror films again, because the horror film industry is a massive, it's worth $1 billion, or it's some ludicrous amount. And she was like, yeah, hell yeah, if you need any scores, I'm there. And I think it's, for some people, just would love to. It must be really good fun, a sort of real playground to do a score from start to finish out of a modern horror. Must be.
Have you seen Midsummer, which is a pretty modern horror?
I don't watch horror films. I just can't face them. Ever since I had a kid, I just can't cope with that level of visceral fear. It just doesn't work for me anymore.
Well, check out. Maybe you could appreciate the soundtrack on its own by Hacks and Cloak for Midsummer. He uses a lot of stringed, bowed guitar kind of stuff going on, and
low vibrato and harmonics and stuff, right?
Yeah, slightly discordant and quite minimal. Totally not terrifying at all, really, as an instrument goes, because I've played them. They're beautiful sounding, but I don't know, it's the way that he's presenting them. It's something really eerie about it. It's great.
I'm just thinking that the show title could actually be a scream. I don't know how you would write a scream. Would it be AARRGGHH? I don't know how it would be. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Okay, well, let's just jump in and have a message from our friends at Softube. This is, of course, Monoment bass. This is the bass synth that is designed specifically for basses. Lots of stereo samples of some vintage and rare instruments, recorded through stuff that is designed to kind of get the most bass tones out of those, and then processed after that in very specific bass ways: multiband compression, equalization, spatialization, which is a really interesting word, because a lot of basses now stereo and also have some sort of ambience on them. The stuff that comes out of it just kind of, you put it in and it occupies the low end really well, shall I say. It feels like once it comes out of this, you don't need to actually do much more to it, because you've got all the sculpting in tools in there. So I think it's also nominated for a Tech Award this year. But yes, do check it out. This is the Softube Monument bass plugin, and you can get it at softube.com. Right, so what's next? Let's have a look. Scary synth sounds. Oh yeah, who's ready for this then?
Hello. Today I'm going to walk you through setting up Control Room on your studio computer.
So the idea of this is basically using a VR
what you'll want
environment.
to do first is head to the Oculus store and search for Control Room.
For Oculus Rift, let's fast forward it up. I don't think we need to see the screenshots.
All right, so select
look it up with various DAWs. So here we go.
Control them in VR.
So you can create mixers, you can create clip launch and all this kind of thing. Which, on the face of it, you can imagine.
Activate the spatial mixer from the tools menu.
Wow. So
there's a handle at the bottom.
I won't play the whole thing, because I can always say I won't play the whole thing. I've got to play a video where I don't play the whole thing, and I've got to say that. It's just part of the rules of the Sonic Talk bingo, I believe. This is an interesting idea, perspective control room VR, and it feels like, you've got like young, fresh producers who probably are also into gaming and 3D stuff, and you can see the sort of desperate trying to kind of bring these two worlds together, because on the face of it, you've got this fantastic technology and a way to bridge them together. We did a thing with Alive in VR as well, where they're doing similar things, and the idea of creating these three-dimensional environments that can then talk to your other applications while mixing. And I just wondered whether, are we ready? It feels like, because this one is out. Let me see, what did they do? They put it out, and it was, it's reduced from $249 to $49. So I don't know whether that's because people aren't taking it up, or they're just trying to get it over, get it, exposure. I don't know. I don't know about that, but I'm just wondering, would that make sense? Rich, because you recently had this kind of epiphany, didn't you, from the mousing around and then finding a controller that really worked, because before that it was like, man, I don't really need that. And now you've kind of done. Do you think there's a similar leap somewhere along the way from going from physical to this VR thing. I mean, I don't know whether you've experienced much kind of contemporary VR technology. I mean, it's not something that I've seen much, but it's really
only once and very briefly in terms of my experience with VR. However, this thing, vis-a-vis what it is, whatever it is, and the way they're marketing it, such as it is, I don't know. I want to like this thing and I want to know what it's for, and I don't know if I like it, and I don't know what it's for. And I watched all the promotional stuff and looked at all the menus and all the, other than being an EQ and an ambience enhancement device and a couple of other things. I just don't get it as a product. I don't understand it. I don't understand how they make all kinds of claims of how this is going to improve my workflow and make my life better. And I don't see any of that in what they're showing me. But maybe that's a limitation in my thinking, and I'm still not giving up, and I'm not, crucifying these poor guys who are working hard on this thing. But I will say the marketing is confusing, and that software they're presenting does not look like what I would want to be presenting on the screen. It just doesn't look right to me, and it's presented funny, and I just don't get it. It makes me question.
But I suppose what's interesting with what you said was that there is almost, you would like to see if it, there's a positive, there's a positivity that you would like this technology to work and figure out how it could work for you. That's kind of an interesting point, and I think that's the case with a lot of this stuff. A lot of the VR thing, people go, oh, this could mean something kind of I hesitate to use game changing, but paradigm shifting, a way that I could work, maybe. Because when I spoke to the guy from Alive in VR, I don't know if you've seen that it was from Synthfest, and he's doing a similar thing, but his is more advanced because he's been doing Ableton Live stuff, and he said, he's got all these backgrounds where you can create music using various widgets and whatnots within his software using the same Oculus Rift or Oculus, I forget which other one it is. And he said that the background to the objects that they're in, so if you put this in a kind of large outdoor space and you're kind of creating music in there, the stuff you create in there with the background is different to what you do when it's in a darkened cube, a cuboid or whatever. And so being able to influence the space you're working in when you're not working in it is also quite interesting. I don't know whether these guys are there yet in terms of what it needs to do.
May I also say that this may relate to people who create content for VR, and it may be perfectly suited to that workflow in a way that I don't imagine because I'm never in that workflow. So there may be tremendous relevance and use of this for this thing that just doesn't happen to match up with the way I work in my life right now. And I'd like to learn about that.
Yeah,
so
I think that there's all these. I forget the name of that. We've talked about this before, but there are interfaces for music and sounds into the game world and the 3D engines that tackle a lot of that stuff. I don't know if you actually have to act out a lot of these things, but you could certainly prototype and understand what was going on.
Exactly. If it facilitates that sort of thing in a way that I just don't imagine because I've never had to do it, then that's a great thing too. So maybe this has more to do with content creation for the medium than it has to do with how it's going to enhance my ability to mix a record.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing, isn't it, Matt? I mean, will it help mix a record? Because, we've seen with, certainly iZotope used a lot of visual representation for visualizing a mix, and the mix visualizer and spatial visualizer. You could see that that sort of thing translating into 3 dimensions as well. I mean, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Will this help a mix? Well, I don't know if this enables you, and I couldn't quite make it out again. I agree about the marketing thing here.
There's a bit of Emperor's New Clothes going on, isn't there, I think?
A little, yeah. I mean, if this allows me to have a 32-channel desk in front of me, which is essentially all my channels coming from Ableton or something, and I'm very quickly able to jump from fader to fader and use multiple fingers to kind of mix as if it was real, maybe that might be quite interesting, because that opens up a world for people who are in very small studio environments, and suddenly they put their hat on and they've got a big desk and they've got everything around them within touching distance. So maybe that, in terms of workflow, are we ready for it yet? I don't know if we are.
I don't think we are. No, I don't think we're quite.
It's one of those things that gets thrown at the public and goes, hey, catch this. see what you can do with it, see if this works. And
well, it's
I think
like 3D
honestly,
TV, isn't it? It's 3D TV, and nobody really went for that. I mean, it was like the industry. Yes, this is what you need, and it didn't really ever kind of go. It didn't go large. I mean, it made sort of. But the thing that's interesting about this as well, I mean, you can imagine combining something like this with that. I did a review of that Waves headphone technology, where you can basically have a head tracker. And you have a plug-in, and you can listen in Abbey Road Studio 3, I think it was. And I personally found it really interesting and quite useful. That helped me with a mix. So I could think maybe if there's if you would imagine that technology with, I suppose, the visual of the room, so that you're getting visual cues as well from the speakers, which is even more, because, I mean, the audio cues are very powerful. I mean, I was finding that it's like, wow, that really sounds like these speakers are giving me this sound in front of me. Because I can see those speakers there, I'm believing what I'm hearing in my ears. So I can see there's a tie in there, but it feels like there's a little bit of a way to go. I mean, I suppose the problem is I checked out VR on, I think it was a PlayStation, whatever it was, at a friend's house. My daughter was having a singing lesson, and the kid was in the playroom, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." He said, "Oh, have a go," and it blew me away. But it was really, really disconcerting, and I was completely disorientated. I don't know whether or not gaming is a part of what you do at BIMS. I mean, I'm sure it must be. I mean, are you a gamer? Yeah. Do you know what it's like to be in a 3D world for extended periods of time? I mean, mixing takes a while, right? So
it absolutely does. But I mean, when you're working in gaming and things like that, you're working in a non-linear way. You're using platforms like Unity, for example, and Fmod, where I don't know if you're familiar with these programs, but essentially you throw stems into it, and then you can create loop points and actions based on things that happen, and trigger points. Something happens in a game, it plays this piece of music, and then it'll move on to the next piece when they're trigger points and that kind of thing. But yeah, my students are working in 3D environments all the time, because I mean, gaming's a big world. And I think most of the games that come out now are offered in 3D audio, if you like. But you need to benefit from that. You need a 5.1 system. And again, did that really take off still? 5.1? How many households do have a decent 5.1
It's
system?
It's the cables. It's like, when you're hoovering up or you're putting it into an existing space and you have to run those cables over those amount of distances. I mean, you can do it wirelessly, but then you introduce latency, so it's not quite the same. It's not going to have quite the same impact, I think. Yeah, I think you're right about all of that stuff. I mean, one thing that's quite interesting, I think, is, again, going back to the Waves thing, is you do get a sense of three dimensions with it, because the way that it records the reflections of the space you're in. So you're getting all of these clues. And it's very interesting when you solo a bass drum, for instance. That I did it in the video review. You're getting all the early reflections. You're not just hearing a bass drum here. You're hearing it bouncing off the walls. And it's really apparent. And you don't realise how much, even a room that's as well designed as Studio 3 or most major control rooms, you're getting that extra information. And it's quite... It really tells you a lot more about the sound or the environment than you realise, or at least I did anyway. But when you've got headphones on, it's even weirder, because you're not seeing the space you're in. But I don't know. I like to think it's going to happen. I suppose what we probably all need is experience in, because certainly my generation, I can't speak for you, Rich, I don't know about you, Matt, but spending time in a virtual three-dimensional space is not something I'm familiar with. I mean, I think it would be so alien to go straight in and go, okay, I'm putting these weird things on the front of my head, and now I'm immersing myself, and I don't recognize anything here. It's probably too much to deal with in one go.
Yeah, I think from the get-go, if you've got an Oculus Rift and you've got $49 and
go for it.
Have a go with this. But for now, if a client's like, I need this mix done for tomorrow, I'm not going to, hang on a minute, I'm just going to try this out, give this a go.
Yeah, I got you. Oh, I think you trying that out may, in fact, have just turned the internet to mush. Oh, there we go. You're back again.
Yeah. Sorry,
I agree. Yeah. Again, it's a sort of, it's a luxury, isn't it, Rich? At this point, you just can't, because you might find there's one thing that it's really good for, and you go, yeah, I'll try that. The same as you would if you had, it's like this plugin is really good for a hi-hat sound that I always like to do. Mixing this bit in VR just works better for me. I'll do the rest normally, but that's the sort of thing that might happen, I suppose.
When I say I don't know, I mean I don't know. I'm still optimistic and hopeful that I can find that, but I'm sure it's meaningful for somebody, and they clearly have put a lot of work into it. But it didn't resonate for me.
Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, well, let's now just have a little word from our friends at iZotope. It's time for the Ozone 9 Advanced Competition.
Building on a 17-year legacy in audio mastering, Ozone 9 brings balance to your mix with never-before-seen processing for low-end, real-time instrument separation, and lightning-fast workflows powered by machine learning. Expect lower CPU usage and shorter startup times with Ozone 9 compared to Ozone 8. Experience fluid metering in a fully resizable environment that lets you track the most subtle details of your audio. Use more plugins at once, mix while you master without worrying about slowdowns or dropouts. And immerse yourself in a smooth, modern experience designed to keep you in your creative flow. As you can see, Ozone 9 is the fastest way to get your master off the ground. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and head to iZotope.com to learn more about mixing and mastering and to download your free trial of Ozone 9.
Indeed you can, and we thoroughly recommend it. And in fact, we have a competition winner from last week. We're looking, we got a competition for this week. Let's do that first, shall we? We're looking for, it's a Twitter competition, so you need to post 2 hashtags and a couple of @. So we're looking for the hashtag intelligent audio and the hashtag Ozone 9 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag intelligent audio and the hashtag Ozone 9 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And if you enter, then what will happen is we'll pick from all the hashtags and all the entries, and we get a random number and we count the random number down the list, and then that's the winner. That's how scientific it is, folks. But we have a winner from last week, and it's a person called, if I've got this right, Bob Normal. I just think for the name alone, you should probably win. But you were picked out at Bob Normal 77. I can't believe there are 76 other Bob Normals, and possibly even more if we're going up the numeration. I'd love to get some mixed polish with Ozone 9. Can you help me, iZotope Inc. and Sonicstate? Yes, you can. Bob Normal, please do get in touch, and we will pass the iZotope Fairies details on to you. In fact, I want to apologise for anybody the last couple of weeks, because obviously iZotope were at AES, so that nobody was around to pick, so we are a week behind, but you will get your prizes, don't you worry. So I'm not sure where to go next, because the time has flown by. It's absolutely flown by. Who wants to do? Okay, we've got Siberia, Space B, or Reminder, or Recorder. Does anyone have a strong feeling for any of those particular topics?
I would love to hear more about Space B.
Space B, right, let's go for that then. All right, so I think I have a video
Believe
there.
it or not.
Ding. So this is Space B. Now this has been going on for quite some time, actually, because when it first was announced,
a fusion.
It was years ago. I'm sure of it. I remember having a conversation with somebody maybe 4 years ago.
In modern form.
So now it's basically a 101 reimagined in a beautiful CNC aluminium case, extended sequencer. 1-for-1 sound, and it's a thing of beauty. I mean, it really is, and it's really nice to see, I think, somebody making something that's not a race to the bottom price-wise. It's like, look at this beautiful thing, it sounds great, you can buy it.
That enables a new form factor, thinner than 1 inch, with uncompromising durability. We've created the first rechargeable analog synth, with 16-hour battery that lets you take it anywhere you're going.
And that's actually the Kickstarter video, because every time the Kickstarter's going pretty well. So you'd think, oh, that's too expensive. How much is it? It's actually it's $1,000.
Pricey.
It's pricey. But 171 people seem to have gone for that. The goal was 78, and they've got £123,000. So let's have a look. We see what that is in dollars. So they've basically 50% over their $100,000 goal. So, I mean, there is a demand for it. I mean, I don't know what the natural wastage is. I don't know how many of those people fall away, but, I'd say they're probably there because it's an all or nothing thing. Now, first of all, what is it about the 101 that seems to garner so much sort of evangelism?
Oh, man, the 101's probably my all-time favourite, not only because it was my first first little monophonic synth, but I think it's its interface as well as the sound quality, its ease of use, and you can take it from a fat bass line to a soaring lead in no time at all. So I think that in terms of the interface and the sound quality and the playability, those three things combined on the SH101 totally got it. And I guess
the sequencer is also something that people could emulate tunes quick.
Well, you've got two sequencers on the SB by the looks of it, and you've also got this interesting, and you've got this interesting way of kind of combining them. I couldn't quite make it out. They've got a name for it, the modulo, which is a way of interleaving sequences that are going, so you can play around with transposition and the direction of the sequences going on. But I think one of the important things we've got to mention here, Nick, is that there is an optional keytar grip that comes with this.
That'll swing
SB.
it.
So I didn't. Yeah, man, and I didn't know about this, and I've backed it straight away as soon as I saw that. I'm there because do you remember we did a bit on keytars in one of the podcasts?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So
this is it.
Yeah,
it's quite is that it? That's the thing there. It's a sort of.
That's it.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
It's kind of small, but it's kind of redesigned, I suppose. But I got to play on this at Superbooth.
Yeah. It was, lots of people were raving about it.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys did. I don't know if you played around with the key bed on it, because it's quite very shallow keys, as you can see from the pictures there. That they've got this strange angle the way they go down into the body, so they're kind of raised up in a way. The feel of them, not everyone's going to get it, but I liked it. I really liked them. I loved the design. It just looks beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And it instantly, if you've got a 101, you're going to gel with it straight away, no problem at all. And then you start getting into it and you're realizing, it's got a joystick here as well. And you can assign that to different things. And then it's got two sequences going on. You start finding new little things. It's kind of like, it is like didn't want to say it, but it is like a 101 reimagined in a way, yeah.
Well, I know Jim from Synth Memes, Jim Hayward, he did a sounds only demo at was it Knobcon? It might have been Knobcon. I forget which. It was probably Knobcon. I don't know. Yeah. So there you go. Have it, Rich. There's some information. We definitely at Superbooth. It was a big hit. People said it just felt very beautiful. It felt really beautifully made. And
that's what I thought it would. That's what I expected from the pictures that it would provide as an experience, that it was really well built and kind of cool in a very self-contained way. But again, I would want to actually have that experience that Matt, the Reverend, had at Superbooth or whatever.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think about the keys on it, Rich. And if keys.
Is it shallow? Is it shallow travel? Is it shallow travel?
Yeah, they are shallow, but as you can see, the keys kind of raise up from the body of the synth in a way. So they're kind of higher up in a way. So even though they're shallow traveled, the fact that they're kind of higher up than the controls is kind of different experience.
Okay. Interesting. And it's got 22 days to go. I think they're going to smash that. They've raised a bunch of cash. So, I mean, the good news is, because I remember when he first came out with this, he was chatting to, I think this is the same guy. Somebody rang me up here and just said, what do you think? And I was like, I'm not sure. Being I'm the arbiter of, obviously I've got the most business acumen of anybody he could think to ring up, and I was wrong because people are really into. But I suspect what happened was I can't remember now whether it was. I said I think it sounds very expensive, and it was at a time when the synths were still trending down in price, so it just sort of felt like it was quite a risky strategy. But it looks like it's paid off, and I think that's awesome because I think it's good that there are expensive things in the world, and people, because obviously we know Behringer have done a MS201 and people are rave about that and love it and go, I'm going to get that. I think you can buy that now, can't you? Have you seen one of those in the flesh, Matt?
Yeah, I have. I got to play on that at Superbooth as well. At first I wasn't overly blown away with it. I think the one that I initially played on, there was something up with it. I couldn't believe it really. I didn't like it at all. And then I played on a different one in the local shop in Brighton, and it sounded completely different, and I I thought there must have been something wrong with the initial one that I played on. And man, I think that, but yeah, Behringer have got that 101 right, but I don't want to compare that to this SB. I think they are.
Well, it'll be a different tactile experience, I think. Imagine.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And they're bringing something new to it with the SB. It's a premium piece of equipment, the SB. And SH101 secondhand going for about 750, 800 quid or something like that right now. And then you've got the SB.
They're not exactly robust, are they? Let's face it. I mean,
yeah. In fact, someone wrote in the chat room in YouTube, what's the scariest synth sound? It's the sound of a CS80 rolling down a staircase.
Oh yeah, that's scary.
That is a scary sound.
That would be or any form of sudden impact, even if it's only being dropped by a centimeter. That's a scary noise to hear when it comes to a CS80, right? Yeah,
that's enough. Yeah, and even a 101. You've got to look after those ones, and maybe throwaway culture. For those of us who might be going on the road and you're thinking, I want that 101 sound, you buy a cheap Behringer and you don't really mind if you get beer spilt on it and kind of replace it a lot easier than you could a 101. So maybe we're moving into this world where you've got a studio set up with your CS80s and your 101s in it, and then on the road you take out something a little bit cheaper that you're not so afraid of getting damaged or something like that, which is a cool place to be.
I think that's true. I mean, I think it's quite a niche market. I mean, I don't suppose it's going to result in a lot of sales for that. I think more likely it's people who can't afford the 750 or just want access to this stuff, because these things are a finite resource when they're the originals, there just aren't enough of them to go around for everybody who wants to try one because there just ain't, so I suppose that's one side of things. But yeah, if you want to get to the kickstart, I think it's US $99 or more. You've got I think it's going to be June 2020. $899 was the cheapest one. That was it. And so now there's the 99 ones. Was the June ones? Yeah, June. Anywhere in the world. 2-year warranty, USB-AC charging cable. Okay, but yeah, it looks like a thing. It's like a massive OP1. It's that sort of CNC, that kind of quality, maybe. That's what I'm getting a vibe from it. I didn't actually put my hands on one. I'm ashamed to say, I just didn't get around to it. But that's the way it goes. Super Booth is busy. Okay, right. What about Reminder? Let's have a look at that, because you were keen on this, Matt. So.
Oh yeah, I was actually. Yeah.
So this is it's like a performance effect. It's an interesting. I guess it's DSP, and the idea is really it's performance effect with. I kind of like a reverb loop, double pulse delay. Filters. I like the little lighting up behind the on the levels. That looks good.
So vibey.
It's interesting. I mean, essentially, it looks like it's a controller for some digital effects. I mean, that's kind of the concept, which is just an interesting idea.
What is this thing?
It's called the Reminder, and it's let me see if I can find it. It was a late newcomer. Let me see if I can find it.
It's a company called Enjoy Electronics.
Yeah,
and I've been keeping an eye on them since they announced this. They've been putting teasers up on Instagram, and it's now, I think it's on Indiegogo to back it.
Yeah, I've got it here. It's
you got it.
Where are they? They've only got 10 days left, and they are about halfway through. It's 47% through. So I guess that's probably not quite. They need an acceleration if it's going. It's probably an all or nothing, I'd imagine. I can't see what that is. Maybe it is. I can't tell. But yeah, that's the page. And I remember, I think it seems to have caught the imagination. I mean, the idea of this sort of performance effects is the concept, really, because I mean, it could just as easily be a MIDI controller with a bunch of LEDs, but because then you'd have more flexible I/O. But the fact is, it's not, and that's what it is. So, what is it about it, Matt, that piqued your interest?
Well, I think every single demo that I've watched, including just that one you just played again, there is just how vibey it is. And vibe is so important for me. Whenever I'm working in a studio with anyone, whatever piece of equipment I'm reaching for, whether it's an LA2A for compression and limiting, it's got to be vibey. And this thing is instant vibe put stuff through it. Maybe as well because I'm a bit of a techno head, and a lot of the demos sound very techno-y, but hands-on, stereo. It's USB audio as well, so you can record stuff down at low latency. You've got LFOs in there as well, reverbs, this kind of infinite feedback loop as well of things going on that you can play around with. It's just a really interesting machine. And
it's quadraphonic as well. Front, left, it's four channel, apparently so.
Yeah,
24-bit 96K. Okay.
Really complex rhythmic patterns that you might not come up with in any other way, just because of the architecture of the delays and the reverbs and the delay lines working in it. I just think it's really cool and very tactile, very hands-on, very instant, very vibey. You just got it plugged in, just put stuff through it, record it down, have a little jam, find elements that you like from it. Happy days. Good, fun product.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that's fair enough. I mean, it reminds me a little bit because, I mean, we had a similar thing, it's like there's the Dreadbot Hypnosis, which is more analog, obviously, but that's a hands-on effect. I mean, it's vibey, you just want to kind of get in there and play with stuff. And effects, generally, they're either a stomp pedal, which means they're on the, not necessarily designed to be up here to be tweaked in real time, or they're a filter or whatever, in which case you would, or they're in a rack, which again sort of moves them away from the hands-onness. I mean, I suppose you get a bit of that with the Eventide stuff and all the controllers, but it's not a new concept, but it's an uncommon one that's executed to this degree, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of almost an instrument in itself. Every video that I've watched, and I've reached out to them and said I'd love to get my hands on these and have a little play on it, is it becomes an instrument in itself. The way that you play with the delay lines and filtering and reverbs, and you can bring things in and out, it becomes very, very musical. I think it's one of those pieces of kit that you can really gel with and just treat like an instrument and play it.
Well, let's see. I mean, I think it's $500, £500. So it's not a cheap thing, but it looks like it's reasonably well made. Rich, I mean, hands-on control effects. I mean, it's not the same as plug-in stuff. I mean, we can all automate plug-in things, but as I mean, I'm sure now you've got a control surface. You're probably thinking, do you get a bit more performative with it? Can you see something that in this that you kind of that you might need? I suppose it's a bit different, isn't it? Because I guess typically the records that you're working on are not extended dance mixes with lots of kind of sound designy wig out sections so much, but I could be wrong.
I'd say that's fair. But a rack of half a dozen of these next to 24 chord chaos pads might be nice. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
And the chaos pad is sort of the first one of these kinds of products that I can think of where the thing was just an effects unit that you could manipulate in some kind of way. Now this thing's got, knobs and various other things, and they're kind of hard patched to things. It almost reminds me hardware wise of the Imp 2 controller that's behind me, which is a piece of hardware that controls software that does cool things. Now it does different kind of cool things than this one, but as a piece of hardware, they're sort of similar in their function. And yeah, sure. Why not? I guess I would think that if it sounds great, that it would be a cool thing for people who live perform in that medium and want to be able to do those things at the grab of a knob.
I think the interesting thing perhaps is going to be, if it's got a decent filter in it, because there is a filter bank and it looks like you've got a low pass and a high pass. Oh God, it keeps so low. Is it resonant? I can't see because it keeps jumping around. Stop animating. Let's see. Resonance. Yes, there is resonant. I mean, if it's got a great filter in it, for instance, as well as the digital effects. So I'm guessing is the do we know is the filter DSP as well?
It's a double Chamberlain filter. I'm trying to think where the Chamberlain filter has come from and why that's quoted. I can't remember what we've seen that in before.
Yeah, I don't know.
It also
Henry Chamberlain.
Well, maybe, but it also says that it also allows customization of the unit, and I believe that's probably in the software side of things, but I'm not sure exactly what that is. And I'm wondering with the software, it allows you to do a bit of routing, whether the filter goes before or after the delays or the reverbs or something like that. I'd be quite interested to know a bit more detail on that kind of side of things. That makes it really exciting. Calling up a preset where you've got filter and then delay and then reverb, or
the routing.
Another one. Yeah, basically a different routing per preset is what I'm trying to say would be really cool. Yeah,
I don't know quite what's going on. But yeah, I think, we're going to have to wait till next year. We'll probably see it at NAMM again in person. So yeah, well, I hope it does well, and I hope it reaches its goal, because it's got a little way to go yet. It hasn't blown up as big as the SBO1, but it looks like there should be enough enthusiasm in the world for it to be a thing, I would think. So let's hope so.
Hopefully.
Check that. I'm just trying to find the where is it? You want Enjoy Dash Lab, which has got it's one of those slightly off now. Envoy Electronics Enjoy Dash Lab, which sounds like one of those kind of Korean electronic companies that haven't quite mastered the naming convention of Pro Audio. But there we go. That's where you can find it. Enjoy Lab. I think we're probably there. That feels like a good place to stop. And it's now 5 o'clock in the UK time, because obviously we're running this a bit later. I guess next week or the week after, Rich, you'll be off, but we'll be back in sync, or will you be 2 hours further apart? I can't remember.
No. We'll be back. We'll be back in sync. Our thing, I think, happens this weekend.
There we go. So we'll all be back. So it's only 1 week of time travel for everybody.
Next week we're doing. Next week I will be around. Actually, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
When's your big show then?
Tuesday. And
okay.
Monday's rehearsal and Tuesday's the show, and then I'll be back Tuesday night after the show.
Oh, I hope it goes really well. I'm sure it will, of course, because
you get to drive home after this gig. That's a beautiful thing.
I suppose so. Yeah, nice one. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining us from your new temple of audio, which I'm sure when we come down to your neck of the woods, we'll have to come and visit. Looks like the sort of place that's going to be awesome. I hope it all goes well, and you can get your cable runs in and all of that stuff. Are you putting trunking in, or are you going under the floor?
I can't go under the floor because this is semi-listed building. This is an original floor from when it was a church. So yeah, I can't touch that, and I wouldn't want to anyway. I don't know. I'll probably just hide it under some rugs. I definitely need to do some dampening in here, and I think rugs are the way forward because it is a bit lively.
Yeah, well, it can be great. Is that where you're going to be mixing in there as well?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a go. I've mixed in some quite big open reverby places before, and I think once you get your head into it and you adjust, you can kind of figure stuff around, and
curtains, curtains and drapes that you can move probably do it, so you can liven it up or deaden it up.
Or get the Abbey Road thing going on in the VR headset and just
pretend you're somewhere else entirely. Yeah, back in your old studio. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
What a concept that would be. Anyway, well, thanks for joining us, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Cheers. And also, Rich, thanks for coming in too. Very much enjoyed it. And I hope your Roly, is that your first gig with the Roly in terms of using it on stage with the Chic experience?
Yes. Assuming they allow me, assuming they go for this idea. Yeah.
Can you get a custom white one? Maybe that would be the thing. No, I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just. It's just.
I kind of like the way it looks.
I think it looks fine. Yeah, I think it could get smudgy if it was. You'd have to clean it a lot if it was white. I'd imagine. Not because of any other reason that it just picks up dirt. I'd imagine a white one. Right. Well, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure, and we shall see you all next time. I'm going to flip to our multi-shot, and we'll see you all. Well, I guess we're going to see you soon as we can. Thanks very much for joining us. That was Sonic Talk episode 595. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye bye now.